Nobody respects women more than I do.
Now, I have great respect for women.
My daughter Ivanka always says, Daddy, nobody respects women more than you, Daddy.
There was this about Jessica Leeds, who accused him of sexual assault.
Yeah, I'm gonna go after. Believe me, she would not be my first choice, that I can tell you.
The fact is, when you give women rights, they destroy absolutely everything around them, no matter what other variable is involved. Even if you become the ultimate alpha male, some stupid bitch will still ruin your life. The vagina is the perfect representation of the nature of females. An empty vessel, a hole, a void with no identity of its own.
The funniest is that I'll go backstage before a show.
Yes.
And everyone's getting dressed and ready and everything else. And, you know, no men are anywhere. And I'm allowed to go in because I'm the owner of the pageant, and therefore I'm inspecting it. You know, I'm inspecting. I want to make sure that
like
everything is good.
You're there.
Yeah, the dress. Is everyone okay? You know, they're standing there with no clothes.
I'm in a state of exuberance that we have a president who rates women on a 1 to 10 scale in the same way that we do, and evaluates women by their appearance and feminine attitude. We may have to institute a new feature called Would Trump Bang to signify the importance of feminine beauty ideals. Trump embodies red pill thinking into every fiber of his being. It's important that we support him. Trump might be one of our last hopes to overthrow the current system and banish the liar forever. More importantly, he's the embodiment of everything masculine. Trump becoming president in the United States means the West will eventually reflect him. We are taking our manhood back. No more slaves. Freedom for all. Since the dawn of the internet, it has been a place for people from all fringes of society to come together and find community in their shared beliefs. When those shared beliefs are violent and create a tribal-like focus on identity and power, those online communities grow like wildfire and eventually escape the confines of the digital world and create real consequences that can end in violence, death, and even insurrection. A lot of energy has been spent focusing on the religious radicalization of kids on the internet and the danger they pose to national security, but not nearly enough attention has been paid to the radicalization of white men on the internet and the danger that poses not only to girls and women, but to democracy writ large. Because once a person becomes radicalized around one set of beliefs, such as that women are the enemy and men are the real victims of feminism, it becomes a lot easier to jump to the belief that immigrants and women are the enemy and white men are the real victims of feminism, globalism, and the cultural Marxism that has taken hold of every corner of life in the United States. It's a slippery slope that leads to killing sprees, violence, and wholesale insurrection. This is the manosphere to alt-right pipeline we should all be talking about. Roll the intro. As a person who exists publicly, especially as a woman who shares her opinions online, I'm hyper aware of safety and security, and it's easier than ever to find personal information about people online. This is due in part to data brokers, which are corporations that collect your personal information from a variety of sources like government, public records, and social media, and then aggregate that information and sell it to other companies. That's where those scammy looking websites that allow you to search for people or do background checks on people, that's where they get all that information. Legally, there are very few online privacy laws in the United States, so the data you might consider to be private may not be private at all. That information can then be used to steal your identity or dox you, or someone posts your contact information online to encourage people to harass you. Not only that, but they also collect the information for your family members, often posting it all together, so it's so much easier to connect other people to you and expose all of your information online. All this data hanging out on the internet can have actual consequences in the real world. I've seen them firsthand. I personally use 𝗬𝗎𝗎𝗓 to help keep my information off the internet and private, which gives me the peace of mind I need to come on here week after week and share my opinions publicly online. Once you sign up for 𝗬𝗎𝗎𝗓, they send you a welcome email and you can get started right away. Tell them exactly what information you want deleted, and their privacy experts take it from there. It's super easy and absolutely worthwhile for the peace of mind that it provides. You can sign up for 𝗬𝗎𝗎𝗓 and get that peace of mind for yourself at the link in the description, and use code Leeja for 20% off your plan. Thanks to 𝗬𝗎𝗎𝗓 for partnering with me on today's video. The Manosphere is the name for the place online where multiple different men's groups congregate, generally in forums and websites like Reddit, 4chan, and 8chan. These groups are many, disparate, and disorganized, but they include men's rights activists, incels, and pickup artists. We'll get into the nitty-gritty differences between each, but suffice it to say, they're communities where men are able to gather, voice their concerns and opinions, get advice, and connect with other like-minded people. While many sources point to the internet as increasing the feelings of loneliness and isolation the world over, it's also allowed for isolated communities and individuals to gain a sense of belonging, friendship, and camaraderie when they've struggled to find it in the real world. And one of the most isolated groups of people in the world are men. Especially men who feel that, for whatever reason, they don't fit in with regular people, or who struggle with friendships and feelings of isolation. And a lot of men struggle with isolation. A 2021 survey found that only 21% of men said they had received emotional support from a friend within the last week, compared to 41% of women. And just 25% of men said they had said "I love you" to a friend recently, as opposed to 49% of women. Between 1995 and 2021, the number of men reporting that they had no close friends jumped from 3 to 15%. No close friends. And the number of men saying they had at least 6 close friends went from 55% to 27%. And that isolation has real consequences. Social isolation can significantly increase your risk of premature death from all causes, a risk that could be just as high as smoking and physical inactivity. It's also been associated with a 50% increased risk of dementia, and along with that loneliness comes the risk of self-harm. Between 2000 and 2020, 800,000 people died by suicide. Men made up about 80% of them. And the pandemic only made it worse. In 2022, the CDC recorded nearly 50,000 such deaths, the highest number ever recorded. There are many factors that may explain the reason for this isolation. Again, the pandemic didn't help, but male isolation has been a trend for decades. Looking at that isolation through a feminist lens, one piece of the puzzle is that those feelings of isolation stem from the patriarchy, which defines masculinity in stark opposition to femininity, and requires that in order to be a real man, men must be strong, emotionally controlled, confident, they must be able to provide for their families, they must be traditionally handsome and muscular, they must show no sign of weakness. The absence of any of these traits makes a man vulnerable to attacks on his masculinity. The consequence of this is generations of men who have no clue how to connect with other people because real connection requires vulnerability, something they're taught never to show. This leads to increased incidences of suicide and violence. But the anonymity of the internet provides an outlet for men who feel they don't fit the mold. They turn to the internet for advice and camaraderie. This can lead men, especially young men who are at their most insecure as they're trying to figure out their identities and all of this, to turn to forums to seek out advice from others for how to better fit this mold. This can start as something as innocuous as seeking out advice for how to talk to girls and maybe what workouts to do to build some muscle and improve their fitness. They may find helpful forum posts from men who felt very similarly to them and have managed to change their lifestyle a bit and benefited from it. They feel seen, and they feel a sense of connection that they've been searching for. So they dig deeper into the forum. And sprinkled in with the advice for high-intensity workouts and protein supplements, they see posts that suggest perhaps part of the problem isn't just that they need to change themselves, but actually that women are causing a lot of this pain and isolation through their rejection of them. So maybe women are the problem. And this is a tempting explanation, especially to explain the anecdotal experiences of lonely, especially young men. Hey, that girl Sarah that I had a crush on in the 8th grade told me I was too short and everyone laughed at me. It's her fault that I feel this way. And I see a few similar anecdotes on this forum, so it must be women generally who are the enemy. It can make a person feel seen and like maybe they're not the complete piece of shit they thought they were. And maybe that in fact they're fine and it's other people who are the problem. And this is where the essential disconnect happens. Instead of having someone come in and tell them the other people who are the problem is society writ large and the predominance of the patriarchy, which requires strict adherence to gender roles at the risk of social isolation and harms both women and men. Instead, someone is there telling them, no, you aren't the problem, and the other people who are the problem are women. You are in fact a victim of women, and it's not women who are reinforcing the patriarchy that are the problem, it's actually women who are feminists. They've been given too much power. In fact, things were better in the 50s, when they had less power. Men back then definitely didn't feel isolated or bad about themselves, because they took their rightful place as the patriarch of the family. Women didn't fight their places in society, and everything was right with the world. It's feminism to blame for all of this and the women who adhere to it. And now you have a young man who's gone from casually consuming tips about protein powder and how to talk to girls to a young man who believes he's the victim of a vast network of tyrannical women whose empowerment is keeping men from taking their true place in society. And the deeper this young man gets, the more he personally and emotionally identifies with this online community, because it's the first time he's found an explanation for his pain that both makes sense and also takes his personal responsibility out of the equation. I'm not the problem, I'm the hapless victim. And then what the man does about this feeling depends on which flavor of manosphere our hypothetical young man has found first or most identifies with. There's the men's rights activists, or MRAs, who have been active since long before the invention of the internet and tend to focus on how society is rigged against men, especially family law courts, where fathers' rights are being infringed, and employment law, where women are getting ahead by playing the woman card.
We are the male men. We are a men's rights activist group, and we are fed up.
I'm sorry, what's happening now?
Then there's the more Andrew Tate-flavored pickup artists, or PUAs, who have also been around longer than the internet, who teach young men how to talk to girls, not from a place of genuine interest or respect, but from a place of psychological manipulation. They see this as a sexual war, which men have to win by any means necessary, including coercion, gaslighting, and even rape, with leaders in the community advocating for the legalization of date rape and teaching it as a skill in their books, seminars, and many online forum posts. Similarly, incels, short for involuntary celibate, blame their forced celibacy on women who they see as trying to control them by holding out on sex, something that these men across the board believe should be available to them at all times. And feminism is to blame for women not being as sexually available to them as they were, say, back in the 1950s when everything was perfect. While spending their days obsessing over women, how to get them, how to have sex with them, how to hurt them, how to control them, how they're ruining their lives, these men also openly despise women, posting some of the most vile, dehumanizing, violent tirades against women that can be found on the internet. These communities are many and varied and not neatly organized, but they generally tend to have common through lines of violent attitudes towards women, who they believe are undeserving of respect, as well as generalized feelings of victimhood. They are victims of a system that has been rigged against them in favor of feminism by tyrannical women who want to see them suffer, and women generally must be punished for it. A recent article from The Atlantic explains further. Anti-feminism offers to address a genuine sense of grievance. Sites such as 4chan, another anonymous message board, have developed a whole language to talk about the hurt young men feel. Stacy's, conventionally attractive, sexually available white women, date Chads, jocks, ignoring nice guys who get friend-zoned. Men who claim to be feminists are manginas and white knights. If these men date feminists, they're probably being cucked or cheated on, because women like real men, not beta males. What starts out as, why won't girls sleep with me, an appeal to a wounded sense of entitlement, becomes, why can't women be controlled? And this appeal to male entitlement and feelings of inadequacy, the threat to their masculinity caused by lack of stable, well-paying jobs, women who are able to work and pay their way without the help of men, more women who don't want to date men at all, declining birth rates, and a whole host of other phenomena that challenge the status quo and paint the world as scary and risky, can lead to further radicalization. And so one thing leads to another, and these men go from anonymous online forum commenters to very public, very violent offenders very quickly. Take, for example, the 2014 mass shooting at Isla Vista, California, that ended in 22 injuries and 6 deaths before the shooter took his own life. In the hours leading up to the shooting, he had posted a 141-page diatribe in which he explained his hatred of women, fueled largely by an intense frustration over his own virginity. In the document, he described himself as the closest thing there is to a living god, saying he was the ideal magnificent gentleman and could not comprehend why women wouldn't want to have sex with him. So his only choice was to exact revenge on the society that had denied him sex and love, declaring at the end, I am the true victim in all of this. I am the good guy. His attacks centered on a sorority house at a local college. The shooter has since become a martyr in the incel online communities. His 141-page document has since been adopted in various corners of the manosphere, with excerpts used to justify further vitriol. 4 years after the Isla Vista shooting, a man posted a Facebook tribute to the shooter before driving his truck through a crowd in Toronto, injuring 15 people and killing 11. In light of these and numerous other attacks perpetrated by members of these online communities, in 2018, the Southern Poverty Law Center, which tracks extremist groups, for the first time classified male supremacy as a distinct ideology of hate, noting that, like white supremacy, male supremacy is driven by fear and anger at the loss of white male status. The Anti-Defamation League's report on the connection between misogyny and radicalization paints a bleak picture. The underlying theme on incel message boards, readily found on 4chan and Reddit, is that the current sexual marketplace gives women too much freedom to choose their partners, which leaves some men being cheated out of their sexual birthright. Some incels believe that by denying them sex, women are committing reverse rape, which they argue is just as damaging and harmful as actual rape and should be included in the Me Too conversation. Indeed, the Me Too movement itself likely only exacerbated these feelings that men and man's rightful place at the top is being threatened at all sides. The irony in all of this, of course, is that these men who are experiencing social isolation because of the patriarchy, their feelings of inadequacy for not living up to the male ideal required by the patriarchy, and their inability to connect with others because vulnerability isn't an option, have led them to hate feminists, the very people who are trying to end the patriarchy and who often critique the gendered requirements for men because they hurt everyone, including men. And while hating women, they also share tips on how to confidently talk to women and how to lose weight and get muscular. In short, how to better fit into the patriarchy, which is the source of their despair. And as men are drawn deeper into the dismal recesses of the manosphere, the message transforms from misogyny to misogyny with racial overtones. As one researcher put it, once you engage with the idea that a social justice warrior club and the feminist movement have increased the precarity of men, that moves over time into the increased precarity and endangerment of the West. And this slow change from manosphere as a personal philosophy to manosphere as a political ideology was documented by a research team who looked at hundreds of comments over years of posts on the Red Pill subreddit. The Red Pill refers to the movie The Matrix, in which the main character must choose between two pills, the blue pill and the red pill. The blue pill allows him to stay blind to the real way that society works, and the red pill allows him to see the true nature of society, something you can never unsee. The main character chooses the red pill, and in the manosphere, the idea of being red-pilled means you believe you finally see the world for what it is, a place where women have taken over, control men through sex, and men have become the hapless victims of feminism and modernity. Interestingly, that term red-pilled is also used by the alt-right in regard to their own flavor of worldview, which we'll get into. Researchers scoured the Red Pill subreddit and indexed the posts in order to analyze how it went from decidedly apolitical, where politics weren't discussed and in fact were frowned upon because it was a space for men to air their grievances and politics had no place, to decidedly political. Trump is our man, and it's our moral imperative to vote for him to save ourselves. It became less about the man as individual and more about men as a cohesive group that can affect political change. And this is directly tied to the election of Donald Trump. Trump said the things that these men felt they couldn't say out loud, except in the manosphere where they post violent diatribes against women and sometimes go out and actually kill women. Trump made violent misogynists feel seen, after years of feeling like they had to be underground and anonymous to voice some of the things Trump was willing to say out loud. And there's nothing like making a group of people feel seen to get them to come over to your side. A 2021 study researched the migration patterns of commenters from manosphere posts to alt-right posts on both Reddit and YouTube. The study concluded, our results suggest that there is a large overlap between the user bases of the alt-right and of the manosphere, and that members of the manosphere have a bigger chance to engage with far-right content than the control group. Previous research has found that content creators on YouTube who share the same platform and often engage in public debate with each other, bringing their communities together and engaging directly with them, can create radicalization pathways on YouTube. And studies have shown that members of other online communities do frequently migrate to channels espousing more extreme views. The 2021 study found that the overlap between users in the manosphere and the alt-right is substantial, and it's common for users who once commented exclusively in the manosphere to eventually eventually engage with alt-right content. And it makes sense, as I've said, that a person who has been radicalized to think women are the enemy and I am the victim and women should be put in their place would also be susceptible to further radicalization. Indeed, reports have shown that alt-right leaders do active recruitment in the manosphere because of this very premise, with misogyny the handy common denominator that serves as a useful outreach mechanism. This is in part because misogyny is one of the most acceptable parts of the alt-right worldview. For example, while offensive, it is still far less inflammatory to say that men are smarter than women than it is to say that white people are smarter than black people. The first one could be openly said on Fox News with little blowback. The second is often implied on Fox News but never said out loud. So they can get their toe in the door by saying the misogynistic things casually and then slowly weaving in the things that can no longer be said out loud because society generally really frowns on eugenics these days. And then further narratives can be woven in to help explain real-world phenomena in a way that fits in with a certain worldview. Birth rates are falling. Women who reach higher education levels do tend to have fewer children. Men can no longer earn a wage that supports a family of 4. Working women have independence and are no longer dependent on men. Women can control their fertility and bank accounts now, so they no longer have to be subservient to men, and their lives are no longer dictated by family or the church. The provided explanations that feminism has ruined society and women are fighting to oppress men at every level of society and government can quickly turn into a full-fledged conspiracy theory, similar to the kind of anti-Semitic QAnon conspiracies that have flourished since Trump's election. When you believe that women are systematically oppressing men and there's a vast cover-up to the point that you need to be red-pilled to see it, you're much more likely to believe there's also a cabal of elites and Jews running the world's economy and preying on children. 𝗑𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪😅 is an example of where these two worlds intertwine and then are given further legitimacy by people like him who are pseudo-academics with published books and therefore have an air of authority that bigots and extremists can then point to justify their ideology. 𝗑𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗙 to justify their ideology has hurt white men's ability to procreate, because these women go off and get degrees and focus on their careers and are therefore less likely to get married and have children to perpetuate the white race. Therefore, feminism and self-actualized women threaten the existence of the white race, which has upset the natural order of things. And the number of white supremacists who have been charged with or advocate an explicit favor for domestic violence is staggering. And in 2017, the white supremacist group Vanguard America promoted their new women's division, saying, "The woman has her own battlefield. With every child that she brings into the world, she fights her battle for the nation. Strong nations grow from strong families." And in alt-right spaces, women who are friends with or date non-white men are considered race traitors who are damaged and generally useless. The common through line in the manosphere and alt-right spaces is the desire to control women and the feeling of entitlement, that these men had a birthright that was taken from them. Certain jobs, racial or socioeconomic status, sex, they deserve it all simply because they exist, because that's the natural order of things. And all these groups within the manosphere and the alt-right have been emboldened by the Trump presidency. They're validated and empowered by seeing themselves represented in the White House. Sounds nice, I've never experienced that. While misogynists in the manosphere have been migrating to alt-right corners of the internet for a while, it turns out that Trump was the ultimate uniter of these two groups, and the ultimate harbinger that brought them from dark, anonymous online communities and out onto the public streets. We saw this at the Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville in 2017, where a group of mostly angry young white men felt emboldened enough to shout, "The Jews will not replace us," en masse in public. And we saw it on January 6th when groups of mostly angry white men stormed the Capitol building, feeling they had personally been attacked because the man who represented them, both politically but also personally, wasn't given back the presidency. Numerous of the men in the crowd that day have been charged with domestic assault or intimate partner violence. Based on what we've discussed in this video, that a violent insurrectionist would also exhibit violence towards women should come as no surprise. There's a lot of suggested band-aid solutions for these problems, such as greater enforcement of censorship in online spaces like Reddit, or teaching law enforcement how to better handle online harassment and abuse before it becomes physical. And those are important, but they don't get at the underlying problem. Men are not okay. Like, I know it's a fun meme to throw around, like, are men okay? But truly, they are not okay. Check on the men in your life. Based on the stats that YouTube shows me, I know that 75% of you watching are men. Are y'all okay? Check in with each other. Tell your buds that you love them. Get a therapist. And then tell everyone that you got a therapist so that it becomes more normalized for men to get therapists and talk about therapy. Be vulnerable with the boys. Ask them how their hearts feel. Ask them what pain they feel in their souls. Okay, no, but seriously, it's really not hard to text a friend and say, hey, how are you doing? How do you feel about your job or your kids or your marriage or your life? What are you working towards? Be in community with each other. Reach out, especially to the young men in your life. They're at a point where they likely feel really insecure and unsure of themselves. Show them what it's like to exist as a well-adjusted man who can speak about his feelings and doesn't fucking hate women. See if you can become a mentor to someone in your community, either professionally or through your alma mater or something. Statistically, 15% of you have no close friends. And that's not necessarily your fault. It's really fucking hard to exist in this world. I get it. Try taking classes or joining a group based around a hobby you have, or pick up a hobby you think might be interesting so that you have a reason to get out of the house and meet people. Yeah, it's gonna be awkward. All of this, the meeting new people, the small talk, the reaching out to your pal to see how his heart feels, but it's not gonna kill you. The loneliness might though. And if it doesn't kill you, it might kill me or other women in your life. So maybe do it anyway. If you liked this video, you might also like my video about why conservatives are obsessed with voter fraud. Thank you to my Patreon supporters, including my newest patrons, and an extra special shout out to my multi-platinum patrons, 𝗬𝗪𝗡, Anthony Giles, and Brett Piantek. If you're interested in behind-the-scenes content, access to my research and show notes, content about my dog, and all sorts of other stuff, consider joining me over on Patreon today. Thanks so much for watching. Have a good day. Bye-bye!